downstairs the last time.
Oh, that's better.
Downstairs from me, who knows, well, there's a woman downstairs from me who knows, right, who knows the woman and that, and who knew the family, right?
Yeah.
She reckons that some of the kids, right,
Yeah.
actually belong to other, you know, other people in the area, or some of the black guys that was going in and giving her one and things like that. She reckons some of them kids were no way with Fred West. They were like, they belong to some of the black guys who was in the area, and they're gone, mate. They're gone. The black guys.
So she's a mother of eight, but Fred isn't.
Yeah. Yeah, Fred's not the father. Apparently, it's some of these guys who was in the area that was going in, you know, giving them one. Apparently, like, all them lot, they've all gone.
Jesus Christ.
You know, before they're pulled up to court to answer questions and that, they're all pissed off. Like.
Anything more? You sure you don't know anything about these types I found?
No, I don't.
Nothing at all. You don't know?
If I knew something, mate, I'd tell you, you know.
Oh, right, thank you very much.
Edmund Kemper. When he was 15, he killed his grandparents. He was sent to a mental institution where he was given the best psychiatric care available. After he was cured, he was released, only to kill 8 more persons, including his own mother. Most of his 10 victims were college girls he picked up as hitchhikers. He can talk about their murder and mutilation with great detachment, almost as if someone else had done it.
I won't say that all my victims were Gloria Steinem types, but there were different factors involved in picking them up, talking with them. I talked with all of them before I killed them. But there were certain personality factors involved, the aggressiveness, the flippancy, the I'm better than thou attitude, or the indifference to another human being. There was always that super secret world of mine where imagination was so much more satisfying than reality. The fantasy that I could have relations with any woman I chose, at any time I chose. I started out with thoughts, and then I began destroying inanimate objects, valuables of mine and others. Then I began killing lower forms of animals and going through certain rituals. And then it became larger, or let's say higher forms of animals, dogs, cats, and then it became people.
What I resented was I had a mother, I had a father. Father worked, he brought in a big paycheck. We had a nice house, we had friends, we went to school, right? We had birthdays, we had Christmas, we had vacations. He had Saturday night with the poker buddies out in the guest house by the garage. We were living pretty good. And she absolutely hated that. This stereotypical response of this deadhead, this muttonhead she's married to, of wanting to go out and play cards in a smoke-filled room, drinking beer and with these old war buddies. See, I had another problem. My father was in the 1st Special Service Force in World War II. They did a book and a movie called The Devil's Brigade. He was a combat sergeant in that group. And he volunteered for that as a single man. They would not take married men. That's how my parents met. She was working as a secretary in Helena, Montana, the capital city. He's a few miles out of town at an old, retired, closed-down cavalry fort for the U.S. Army that was reopened as a secret base for these guys to train out of at Fort William Henry Harrison, just outside of town. They got to know each other. They quite, it wasn't secretly, but it was very quietly got married, because if they'd have known he got married, he'd have been kicked out of the group. This is what was described as a suicide brigade 5,000 men trained in all his devastation ways, right? He goes off to war and he does some horrible things. He can't talk about those things.
If there was an Olympics for mental illness, Mr. Heidnik would have won a gold medal. He's a paranoid schizophrenic, delusional with fixed false beliefs that are absurd. He was not playing on the same level as everyone else.
Mr. Heidnik lacks the capacity to correctly apprehend what's going on and to interact in a normal fashion with his attorneys.
Heidnik did not take the stand. Throughout much of the hearing, he seemed not to pay attention, talking so loudly to his lawyers that Judge Franklin Van Antwerpen had to ask him to hold it down.
It's just one more small piece of evidence that he's an impaired individual who can't conduct himself in a normal fashion, even at this level of seriousness. I mean, the man is hours away from being executed, and he's talking throughout the proceedings in the courtroom.
At one point, Heidnik turned to his 19-year-old daughter, Maxine, and said, quote, "Go to the FBI and we win. Me and you, baby." Then he smiled and gave her a thumbs up.
Jack Murray's a noted Australian, came over here, sexual sadist. We've got a litany of women. He lured them into his van for sex, very charming and nice. But as soon as he was ready, he would turn them over and rape them anally. He bit a girl so bad on the back it left a scar. He damn near bit another woman's nipple off. He jammed a broken beer bottle into another woman's, not into her anus, into her hip. He is a noted sexual sadist. He brutalized his wife, he brutalized people, he was a thief, he was a child molester, and the LAPD says, well, he was a nice guy. He was in it for kicks. If you listen to the song Queen of Hearts by Juice Newton, she didn't write it, Queen of Hearts is one of Carol's favorite. And it talks about their relationship. It's hard to love him because she knows he's only in it for kicks. He's in it for sex kicks. He's a sadist. The Louise Farr book spelled it out. Yet nobody's ever asked, what about this guy in Australia? We know nothing. We don't even know if he was a draft dodger or in the equivalent of the CIA as an assassin, as he used to claim he was. He used to brag about being a killer. We don't know anything about him because nobody's ever done their job and checked. LAPD never checked. DA never checked. But this guy was in it for kicks. Remember, Carol Bundy bought him a video camera so they could videotape this stuff, but there's no videos. Where are the videos? Carol Bundy is a actual multiple personality. There have been shrinks that have looked at her and noticed this. She's a sadistic, butch lesbian. She's a submissive, to be Indian domination, all that, heterosexual. Two of her personalities. It just blew cops away.
But I would also like to point out, before everybody takes Mark McNamara too seriously, that Douglas Clark's current lawyer has described him in a petition to the higher court asking to be relieved. She's described Mr. McNamara as Douglas Clark's personal emissary and alter ego. And he appears to be on some kind of mission to free Douglas Clark. And
are you saying, Mark, that Doug is totally innocent?
Oh, no, he's guilty.
Mark McNamara's back down.
Wait,
His article in Vanity Fair did suggest that Douglas Clark was innocent.
Well, Los Angeles police now believe that two young women whose bodies were found Saturday were strangled by someone who was imitating the so-called Hillside Strangler. In fact, they believe the murders were not otherwise related to the deaths of 11 other young women killed by the so-called Hillside Strangler since mid-October. and 2 men have been arrested in connection with the weekend slayings.
This is a sketch made by police artists to show what they thought the Hillside Strangler looked like. And this is a picture of Ned York from an actor's directory. He is described as a bit part player, 37 years old, 6 feet 4 inches tall, weighing 240 pounds. He lives in this small house in Hollywood. Police picked him up here after he telephoned them to talk about the Strangler case. Neighbors say he was religious and that he separated from his wife about a month ago. So, after 3 months of intensive investigation, the Los Angeles Police Department finally has booked a suspect in the Hillside Strangler case. It remains to be seen if Ned York actually is the Strangler. Roy Neal, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Peter Mark Jones being held in Los Angeles. The police think he might be the Hillside Strangler. He was named by George Shamshak, who said he drove Jones's van while Jones committed 2 of the murders in the back. Here's Warren Wilson in Los Angeles.
The Massachusetts prisoner who began talking to police was transferred from Los Angeles to a San Diego federal prison after his Boston attorneys said Los Angeles police should charge him or release him. As George Shamshak left, he said, "I'm innocent." However, both Massachusetts and Los Angeles police said that he told them that he drove a van while another man killed 2 women in the back. Shamshak implicated his childhood friend, Peter Jones. They were roommates in Los Angeles following Shamshak's escape from a Massachusetts prison. The two had a falling out last month. Jones has been booked on suspicion of murdering Jill Barcombe and Kathleen Robinson. No charges have been filed against Shamshak in California. His attorney, Tom Troy, objected to how Los Angeles police had treated his client since Shamshak voluntarily came to Los Angeles to talk.
This could not happen in New England. There is no such thing as suspicion of a crime. You cannot hold people without charging them for a 48 or a 72-hour period.
He is actually a prisoner. He's been convicted of robbery, and he's a prisoner. He's in there, actually in the prison's custody. We simply were holding him en route.
Los Angeles police think they have cracked at least 2 of the so-called Strangler murders. Meantime, police are still trying to solve 11 other Hillside murders, which they now think may have been committed by several people. Warren Wilson, NBC News, Los Angeles.
What do you want the world to know about you?
The world has been fed many lies about me. I have read very few truths.
Did you kill 13 people?
It would be improper for me to comment on my LA convictions and on my pending case here in San Francisco.
Why?
Because of my appeals.
Are you appealing these because you say you're innocent? You didn't kill 13 people?
That is correct.
You didn't kill 13 people?
Again, it would be improper for me to comment in any regard to that question.
They had to have a black suspect, period. If they had found out what we know now, that there was Klan involvement in these cases, that there was involvement of the United States government with knowledge of some of these things right now, if these things had been known back then, you probably would have had Civil War #2 being fought right in Atlanta, Georgia. They had to have a black man, so, you know, there's no other way about it. And I think what happened was that once my name entered into the FBI computer system, because at the time they had a system, well, this is classified, you're not supposed to know, but I tell you, it's called Vortex. They had a system called Vortex. And once my name began to pop up with some past connections and things that I've done versus my father and all, I think the decision was made at the White House to prosecute Wayne Williams in this case, damn everybody else. I think that accounts for the meeting at the governor's mansion that was held 2 days before I was arrested, and I think this accounts for the behavior on the part of people in the White House, Mr. Starr, Kenneth Starr, who was in charge of one of the investigations of this case, as well as then Vice President George Bush. I think they made a deliberate decision to prosecute me, as they say, come hell or high water. When I was going through school, when I started in college, I was approached to work for something called the JLT program, the Junior Officer Training Program, which is a minority recruiting program for the Central Intelligence Agency. I asked and went so far as to take 2 trips to Camp Perry, Virginia, 1977 and 1978. And these people wanted me to work with them because I already had an electronics background, I knew photography, and they were having some problems at the time in Africa. Apparently the United States, what we were told, was involved in some action in Africa going against the government in Angola and all, and they needed some blacks to work for them at the time. So in the process of considering me for that, my name was already on the government's computer roll. And I think after the bridge stopped, when you put 1 + 1 = 2 together, people jump. And I think that's exactly what happened, panic. And let me say this too. At the time it happened, you've got to remember, I called 2 names to you. I called Gerald Rafshoon, who was President Carter's chief of staff. Gerald Rafshoon, at the time when Carter went in, George Bush was his director of Central Intelligence. During the radio station era, we came to find out that while we were operating the radio station, I was also under surveillance by the FBI's Cointelpro program. The NSA had a program which was also called Minaret and Shamrock. If you get those files that came out of the Frank Church hearings in 1975 and 76, I am the young black reporter that's mentioned in those files where we were under observation because of our association with SCLC. They knew me for a long time.
But you're hoping that there's some autopsy will reveal something to explain?
I'm praying for at least some data points, because otherwise it's you know, the bug in Men in Black put on a Steve suit and went and did this.